so you have the idea of the perfect society. And the perfect society is a very old idea, goes back to Plato. But there was no mechanism to bring it about. And it also was very much opposed to the Christian idea that people were born wicked, so you couldn't make them perfect. Perfection was perhaps in the afterlife, but not in this world. But then, as science developed, and people started to understand more about nature and how to master nature, I think you start really with the scientific revolution, Copernicus, Galileo, Newton in the 16th and 17th centuries, early 18th century, and you got the idea that humans could control nature because they could understand its laws. And then you could control society as well. You could, because after all, human beings were part of nature. And if you understood how nature worked, you understood how humans work, and then you could also hope to improve the society and realize the dream of a perfect society in which everything worked like magic. And the idea also of society as a big machine became very popular in the 18th century. And all you had to do is understand how the machine worked, and then you could get the machine, and you could also get a machine without frictions, which was the human sort of what made it all go wrong. So I think this was the mindset of the 18th century, which I talk about, and it culminated in the Enlightenment of the 18th century, when people really started talking about perfect societies. And at the same time, you had the Industrial Revolution, where machinery was perfecting production. So you have a machine thread going all the way through. So this was very optimistic. Then you had the French Revolution. Then you had the horrors of the Industrial Revolution in England, particularly when it started at the end of the 18th century, early 19th century. And suddenly people realized this idea of perfecting everything was running up against terrible problems, one of which was human nature itself. And people trying to achieve it were causing immense suffering and distress. And so you got the first dystopian fiction with Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Frankenstein wanted to create a god, and he created a monster who was a killing machine, actually. And so that is that's the point at which the dream turns sour, the dream of perfectibility. And it's been souring ever since. We've had huge achievements, made enormous progress in all kinds of ways, and yet there's always been the destructive side, the devilish side of machinery as well. And so my lecture is really about the dream and how the dream turns sour. But it wasn't abandoned, because we now have, and I'll go on to talk more about that, artificial intelligence as the latest version of the dream.